I can't see the
And the first order of business is to welcome Rich Nesbitt, one of our newest board members. Rich has been here the last 2 months, but he's been on the screen rather than in person. So it turns out he really is
I do.
a real person.
Yeah, in the flesh. Good morning.
Rich is with Johnny Walker Insurance. You have a couple of other businesses you're involved in as well.
Yeah.
Tell us what they are.
Commercial real estate and another division of Johnny Walker, Lion Shield, and that we're just starting, and also helping my son start a handyman business. So kind of spread thin, but all good.
Very, very good. I already had the question that does, what was your insurance business named after Johnny Walker?
The original. Yeah. No relation to blue, black, or red, but his name Johnny Walker, 1939, and he was lived in Philmont and sold the HC in '63, I believe, and then I purchased it in 2006. So it's a name worth keeping, for sure.
Believe it or not, I used to deliver a registered star to Johnny Walker Insurance Office. Yeah,
Wow.
That's how old I am. But welcome, glad to have you with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we're going to start with committee reports, Audit and Finance Committee.
Yeah, sure. We went over the audit report. Mike went over our micro enterprise grant program, and we talked about the end of the year meeting that we have here today. 60 people were signed up at our meeting last week, and Dan Rickman is the head speaker.
We also included in your packet as a request of the chair, a copy of the program. And do you want to just go over that now?
Sure, let's do that.
Oh, you got one?
Yeah, I got it. Mike, you want to?
We are following our normal run of show, if you will. The event is at the Greenport, which is the banquet space at the Falls. And Jim will obviously do a welcome. We'll have remarks from Matt Morrell, the chair of the Board of Supervisors, Mayor Johnson, and Joe Landy from Empire State Development. And also Jean-Claude Bruno, who is the general manager of Hudson Valley Creamery, who is the principal sponsor in terms of the high level contribution. We also list the Greenport as the sponsor because they are comping us on the space for the event. And then we have our member sponsors and community sponsors. Our keynote is Dan Rickman, the Upstate New York District Director of the Small Business Administration. You may have seen in one newspaper ad, we renamed the U.S. Small Business Administration to Association, but our chair caught that, and the rest of the remaining ads will be correct. We're going to recognize our outgoing directors, Dave Finger, Ruth Adams, and Sarah Sterling. Unfortunately, Sarah is going to be out of town, but I thought we could certainly acknowledge her and follow up with her afterwards. For the annual report, we're going to do what we did last year, which is split it up. Rather than just me give the report, I'll give a portion of it, and then Martha and Chris will give updates on their areas. And we have a quick annual business meeting. We accept the minutes of the previous annual meeting. Kara will give a quick treasurer's report. Andy will go over the bylaw changes and ask Jim to call the questions to approve those bylaw changes. And then Rachel, as the chair of the governance committee, will present, and Jim will approve, call the question on the election of directors. The officers are elected by the board itself, not the directors or the members. And then we have closing remarks. Our goal is to be out by 9:15. Usually we'll begin arriving, what, Lisa, about 7:15 for the 7:30 event. Lisa works very hard to get a head count to demonstrate that we had a quorum for the purposes of conducting the meeting, the business at the end of the meeting. Fortunately, our bylaws provide that if you have a quorum when you start the meeting, it doesn't require that you have a quorum at the time you conduct the business. We are using Chef Danielle from Georgia Ray Kitchen. He's a loan client. And we will have audio and sound and a screen for the keynote speaker. And we're very pleased with working with the Greenport, and I think it'll be a good meeting. Riley, I wasn't able to catch up with you yesterday, but how is the attendance?
We're almost at 100. We're like 90 something.
And usually we're somewhere between 100 and 125. You know, you'll lose 10% of the people who sign up, and you'll have 10% of the walk-ins to balance it out. We don't generally, other than the mayor and the chair of the board of supervisors, you know, we certainly acknowledge dignitaries and other elected officials, but you know, we sometimes get a little bit of heat by not giving an opportunity for everyone to speak. But as it is, I know, you know, most of our members are business people or government and educators, and they want to get back to work. So it's going to be a good meeting, and Chef Danielle said, couldn't you get Gus and to reopen, just let me use the kitchen so we could have one last event at Cousins? And I said, probably not. Any questions?
Some of you have registered for the event, some of you have not. If you don't have a schedule conflict, hopefully the rest of you will register. Please do that now so that we have an accurate count to get to the caterer in advance. So be there by 7:30, please. And it will begin with just a reception, a networking opportunity. And as board members, please circulate and let people know we appreciate that they came, and we appreciate their support. Ask if they have any questions about CEDC that you can answer or pass along to Mike or a member of the staff, and make them feel welcome. So we're looking forward to it. Loan committee.
Hi. First up, we have the portfolio dashboard that I'll need the people on. Thank you all for coming this morning. I have some updates to the portfolio dashboard that you're looking at. Loan client A, we rewrote that loan. That client now has a single CEDC loan for $33,000. So for the time being, at least, they are current. Loan client B came in and paid in full, didn't pay the loan in full, but paid the balance of what was owed. So that loan is also current. And loan client C came in and brought us one payment. It's still in arrears, but they're getting caught up. Are there any questions on the portfolio?
Did everybody find it?
There's no questions on the motion for approval?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So carried. Moving on to our first loan request, Cafe Mutton.
And good morning, everyone. Cafe Mutton, located here in Hudson, food service cafe. Their request of us is a $25,000 SBA microloan. This loan includes the $2,500 Columbia Forward grant. It also has the 3.75% interest rate associated. Term of the loan is 72 months. Payment being $388.29. Purpose of the loan being equipment and supply purchases with some working capital. Our collateral being a lien on business assets and the personal guarantee of principal. That's Cafe Mutton here in Hudson. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions, concerns? If not, motion for approval?
So seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So carried. Moving on to our next loan request, Saunderview Farm.
Thank you, Rachel. Saunderview is a startup farm business located in Ankrum. They are requesting $50,000, and the loans will be split between our two loan funds. The term will be 72 months, and the interest rate is 7.75%. And the purpose of the loan is equipment purchases again and working capital. We'll have a lien on business assets and the personal guarantee of both principals.
Anyone have any questions on the refund loan request?
Yes. There's quite a contrast between the interest rates on these two loans. What factors influence the setting of those rates?
So, the Columbia forward loans are the ones that are $25,000 or less, and they have to have been in business for 2 years. They have to meet a certain criteria of fewer than 25 employees and a certain credit score. So this client did qualify. They were looking for just $25,000. They get the grant on top of it, 10% of the loan amount, and the 3.75% interest rate.
That was a program that is funded through Columbia County Board of Supervisors as part of their commitment to us during post-COVID using ARPA money. And we have about 25,000 left. And if someone comes in and they wanted 50,000, they're not eligible. They have to be under, we can't.
Yeah, Saunderview was very interested in that loan program, but working with their consultant who is being funded by Berkshire Ag Venture, they determined they needed more than 25,000 and it really didn't make sense. And they thought 7 3/4 was still a reasonable interest rate for a business loan.
It does create what appears to be a discrepancy or disparity, but there are qualifications for the loan that were established by the Board of Supervisors 2 years ago.
Thank you.
So Mike, what you're saying is the first one's done, that loan's done, you have enough money for one more loan?
No, we give 10% of the loan, so we can do $250,000 more of loan. We can do 10 more loans. Because
I got you.
You get 10% of the amount.
Is there any expiration date of the?
When we run out of money.
When you, okay.
It was intended that it would be done by the end of this year, and I think we'll be close to the end of the year. You'll recall that they wanted to give us $450,000 to do small business grants. And at the time, our thinking on it was twofold. One, a $2,500 grant, for $450,000, we didn't have the staff to manage the application process, the review process, and the awards. And I also felt that if you hadn't come out of COVID by then, $2,500 wasn't gonna help you. And that people would somehow slip through that weren't really eligible or would create some type of reputational risk to us in terms of if they really need it. Fortunately, we didn't do that program, and instead they went for the we worked out the Columbia Forward program where they funded staff person for the chamber and CEDC as well as this grant program, because they did the other program. And the county controller determined that 28% of the grants that were awarded were people who were ineligible. And it would just have been, it was one thing to do a $250,000 grant program with Berkshire to kind of give community foundation funding in the height of COVID. But this was just not gonna, it wasn't, we couldn't demonstrate the need anymore. Either we're back in business anymore.
If there's any more questions, no more questions, need a motion for approval of this one?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So carried. So last on the agenda is there was a revision to the micro enterprise loan authorization form. We could just talk through that and then we'll need approval.
Yes, thank you, Rachel. This relates to both the Columbia Forward Loan Grant Program and our Micro Enterprise Grant Program, which we're administering for Columbia County. What I've given you is a memo that was written back in 2020 in the height of the pandemic. The board approved quick turn rapid recovery loans to assist businesses, again, if they met certain criteria. And we're asking for the same approval for the participants in the Micro Enterprise Grant Training Program. We have 19 people enrolled in the program now. We have more applications for the micro enterprise grant than we have funds. And so we anticipate that some businesses will be looking for a loan. In fact, we know they're going to be looking for a loan. And what we would like to offer them is a $15,000 Columbia Forward loan. It would come with a 10% grant on top of it. The interest rate would be that 3.75%. And we wouldn't have to go through the loan committee or the full board if they meet the criteria. They've been in business for at least 2 years. They have a minimum credit score. We've gotten to know these participants a little bit because we're meeting weekly down at the chamber for the micro enterprise training program. And I do think we're going to have 2 or 3 requests for loans, which it's small consolation if they don't receive a grant, but these are very generous terms. And I do think that we have a couple that will apply.
You require them to complete the training?
Yes, and this is just a 4-week training program. Tonight is night 3.
It's a very unique grant program. We received a $300,000 award. We can take a $40,000 fee if we can demonstrate we've had $40,000 in costs, which we haven't. But won't. So we've allocated $275,000 to grants instead of $260. It's for businesses with 5 or less employees, including the owner. And either the owner has to be low or moderate income, or upon getting the grant he or she has to hire someone who's low or moderate income. You can't use the money for anything but working capital and equipment, because if you're going to use it for fit out or construction, then we'd have to go through individual environmental reviews of each of the awards. It's been working well in other areas of the state. Martha and Steve have put in an incredible amount of time learning the program, guiding the applicants to be sure that they fully understand the constraints of the program, but also working with them and a technical assistant trainers who are running the course that they have to take to make sure that it's successful for their business. It's a lot of work, but it really complements what we're doing with the loan program. And I think it's going to be a great program. But as Martha said, we will have more awards to make than we have money. Once we have 85% of the money on the street, we can reapply to the state for another tranche. But it's a reimbursable program. So if you get the grant and you don't, our encouragement is to get people to spend the money as quickly as possible so we can reimburse them as quickly as possible so we can reapply. We're doing this through the county, and we're fortunate that Jessica Gabriel assisted us with this, but now she's overseeing the person that oversees the program. So it's been very, very helpful.
Was there any discussion, Mike, about whether the 3 3/4% interest rate should be adjusted for this new round that is approved?
I think the thought here was that this is by giving the extra incentive to people who take the courses and who then participate in this program, kind of gives them a little jet fuel to get started. If you got $25,000 and you can get a $15,000 loan on top of that, now you have $40,000. And, you could really, we looked at it as a package and therefore provided the lower interest rate as an incentive. And I suspect we'll use some of the Columbia Forward funds to absorb that. So we're not creating a new 3.75% loan program. But, I think because there's an added commitment of going to the course and complying with the grant, I think you can justify linking them and still have the other loan program for $25,000 and above at a higher rate.
And this is helping people who have applied for it, but then who in the end get the microloan. So it's still offering them funds after they've taken it. It's a consolation.
Well, and what we're saying to them is, look, some people only needed $6,000. But the people who are, if they really can learn and understand cash flow, being able to get $40,000 and only have a $250 a month payment, will really, jumpstart their business. And we're hoping that the training and the individual work by the consultants will, help certain people be able to get that.
Any other questions on it? If not, I'll need a motion for approval. Second,
Seconded.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So carried, great, thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. President CEO report, Mike, and you'll do the,
We've spent a lot of time with the staff working on the annual meeting. Riley Warner has done a tremendous job getting all of the printed material and content drafted for marketing and advertising. And Lisa and Riley and I did a walkthrough with Jim at the Greenport. I keep calling it the Falls, but we're very excited about it. We also have an inordinate amount of project activity. The Restore New York program, there are 5 applicants for that in the county. There's the Summit in Philmont. It's an old factory up by the pond for the event space. There's 11 Main in Germantown, which is a multi-use project on the waterfront, including office space, gallery space, and a potential restaurant on the rooftop. Little Deb is looking at hoping to get a grant to restore the old gas station over here next to Baslow's, move the restaurant. The City of Hudson Housing Authority has requested money from Restore New York to demolish Bliss Towers as part of the overall program that they're working on with the federal government to build units to replace it and then take down Bliss Tower. And trying to remember where the 5th one is, but we're getting a lot of requests for assistance in working through these programs with these applicants. I think also the reason Joe Landy is speaking at our annual event instead of the regional director Mike Yevely is the state is holding the statewide co-chair conference of the regional council from across the state of Utica that morning, and Mike will be there. But that means that in the 1st or 2nd week of May, they'll be releasing the CFA guidebook for the 13th round of funding, and we'll be obviously marketing that and working very closely with applicants to help them identify programs and work through their applications to get qualified. Both the City of Hudson IDA and the Columbia County IDA have multiple projects coming before it. And obviously, those are important to us because to the extent that we receive 10% of any fee that the applicant pays to the IDA for the benefits that they will receive up to $10,000 helps drive our budget. So, we are we have a list of at least 25 active projects. Our role often is concierge services, directing people to other resources or places, but there's also a reliance, and we have to at a certain point help people get a consultant because we're not in the fee-for-service business because that puts us in a situation where if we're giving you more benefit than someone else applying, are we really picking a favorite? And we don't want to remain neutral, but give people as much guidance and assistance on an equal basis as possible.
Are businesses using consultants when they're applying for these grants?
There's a handful of consultants out there. There's an example, Sophie Henderson, Amanda Miller over in Greene County does this work. Others use, Camoin Associates or MRB out of Saratoga, which are, there's some individual freelance consultants, but there's also firms that just do economic development and planning. The last thing is, you may recall the county had asked us to participate as their fiscal agent for the upcoming climate carnival at the county fair grounds on September 14th. And one of the things they're asking us to do, as well as the chamber, is to help market the event, which includes sponsorships. I think that, one of the things that they asked us to do is draft a letter and send it to businesses. The other is to use our email marketing to raise awareness among businesses and to look for vendors who will participate as exhibits at their booth, but also sponsors. Jim and I have talked about this. It's a concern in the fact that do we confuse our members and our sponsors by and at the same time, can we do it where we're sending it out and it's we're marketing the county, but we're passing it along as information, not as a request. Jim and I are going to talk about that, but I do think it's a little bit complicated because of the support we get from the county. But if there's any strong feelings about our role in that, my thought is that we would do it in a way that we'd include it in our newsletter. If someone wanted to participate, we wouldn't say sponsor here. We would say or we wouldn't say sign up here or join here. But we would have a link for them to their page to learn more about the program, and then you could sponsor it if you wanted to. It opens us up to hundreds of not-for-profits asking us to do the same. And I think, as you know, right now, we turn down most not-for-profits on the basis that our support, our money is to support what we do. We do support the Winter Walk and we do support the county fair. Other than that, we're pretty selective in terms of, you could spend $50,000 supporting galas and events and other not-for-profit activities. And that's really not why our members or our county partners or state partners fund our program. So it's,
I just say, as a nonprofit, that I think it's much more effective what you do in terms of helping, especially in the first few applications you do in the CFA process. That was hugely helpful for me coming from outside the region. So I think that's more important.
Yeah, well, and I do think that when people see your name out there in areas where why are they spending their money to do that? It makes people say, why am I giving them money? Because I thought I was giving it to them to do it. I thought I knew what they did.
We get that with WAMC, because of the way they phrase their sort of sponsorship. It sounds like we're, anyway, it's weird.
But it is a county function. I don't know that we want to take it over. We don't have the staff to take it over. But if it was our event, we would be sponsoring it. So if you do see it, I just wanted to give you some awareness as to what the thought process was, and how we'll draw the distinction. And I think kind of over engaged with the county on this already, so I don't know that we can get to find a fine line here.
So Mike, it turns out that my business is not for profit, so I'd be looking for a sponsorship.
We can exchange sponsorship, because you just.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
We'll exchange checks.
I had a donor friend one time say we should all get together, put a large dollar amount in the pot, have a great big gourmet dinner, and pass it around to each other, and then not call each other during the course of the year to support each other's favorite charities. I'm sensitive to it on both sides, and I didn't want you to see this in an e-news. I put them off by saying, well, we have to sponsor our annual event first, and we'll get back to you.
Who's handling that through the county?
Don Meltz, who is in the county planning office and has been designated as the county climate officer, along with Jolene, who's retired. She's retired as the county waste manager. She's finishing up this project.
Next is the extension of the contract with the Hudson Industrial Development Agency.
Yes, we determined that somehow we may have approved it or may not have, and so rather than try to figure it out, we'd like you to approve the contract. As you'll recall, we had a contract with the City of Hudson, $10,000 a year, plus the 10% of a fee up to $10,000. And we're increasing it to $2,500, I'm sorry, $12,500 a year and 10%. And, you know, on a $25 million project, the developer would pay 1% to the IDA, which would be, you know, $25,000 or $250,000. 10% of that would be $25,000, but we get capped at 10. We do a lot of work on an IDA project, both going into it, with, helping the applicant prepare the application, working with the agency, both at the county and city IDAs to narrow down the incentives, do the public hearings, and then monitor the project going forward. So, you know, it is, there's a bit of a windfall, but if you actually were keeping track of the time, it's probably just about the time we spend on it.
We do their bookkeeping.
No, the city does their own bookkeeping, interestingly enough, but we pay, how much is it a month? $12 a month for their online book? $65 a month for their online QuickBooks. But you know, when you're taking a $50,000 a year in business, you don't squabble for the monthly fee. And they pay their own accounting, audit fees, they count their own legal fees. But, you know, we do the administrative.
Any questions about the administrative services agreement with the Hudson IDA? Is there a motion to approve?
Make the motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Mike, could you give us the financial report?
Yes.
And in so doing, go slow and make sure
We have the right.
we
Started the right
find,
page.
yeah, we start the right page, the page that you're on. Thank you.
Okay. If you turn over the first page, on the back of the title page of the packet is the balance sheet. I'm happy to report, this is the first time in the history of the organization that we have gone over the $5 million total asset number. Obviously, it includes our bank accounts. And we are down because we did purchase the property up on Route 9H. Our current assets are up because our increase of $250,000 in loan funds on the street and increase in SBA loans of $313. You know, we are down $41,000 on fixed assets because of the recalculation of the right of use, which is a paper transaction that FASB now requires businesses to take. And we did increase our allowance for bad debt. And you can see, again, the right of use in the other asset category impacting total other assets. On the liability side, on the next page, our accounts payable are down. Our other current liabilities are driven heavily by our deferred revenue. Our long-term liabilities include $77,000 remaining on our $100,000 SBA emergency impact disaster loan. You'll recall we took that out not knowing if there would be, not even imagining there'd be PPP2, and the county had cut us $100,000 when they reduced all county departments from the appropriation. So we are in a situation where we didn't know whether we would need that the second year. It's a 30-year loan at 2.75%, but we put it on a 5-year payout because, you pay more in interest over 30 years than you would have paid. We did think about taking the 2.75% money and loaning it out at 7.5, but we figured the SBA might think we shouldn't do that. Our lease liability, again, is a function of accounting fictions. Our loans to the SBA are up $389,000 over last year. Obviously, we pay that back on a monthly basis on the loans that they have approved, but they did give us $750,000 in the last tranche. We did get notice that our allocation for our grant is in the $265,000 range for July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. It's about $10,000 less than we received from them last year. But we understand that their funding was reduced by more than 10%. So we were recognized for the volume of loans that we were doing and not penalized on par, but they did cut us by $10,000. The long-term liabilities, therefore, are up primarily because of the increased obligation to the SBA for the money they've advanced to us to lend, which resulted in our having greater assets. On the equity side, our capital assets are basically the same as our restricted assets. And we have an unrestricted net position of 2.1 million. And we have net income of 48,000. It's pretty static balance sheet. We anticipate Martha asking for an additional SBA funding for loans.
Yep, before the end of the year, I'm expecting a little request $1 million.
$1 million. Any questions on the balance sheet? If not, on the P&L. One more page over. Our grant, we're slightly down on administrative revenue because we had budgeted for at least one IDA project to close by now, but there are 3 in the city pipeline and 2 in the county pipeline. So I'm not worried about that. Our county money is down $3,700, $3,750. It's probably either from deferred income or we haven't moved it over because we do accrue it monthly. Our interest income is up $4,200. And if we multiply that out after 3 months to a year, we'll be over $100,000 in interest from the loan program. Again, we continue to put all of that back into the loan program at this point. Our sponsorship and membership is up, but we're at about $40,000 and through March in actual money, but the accountants make us book it on 1/12. So if you gave us $1,200 on January 1, we have only been able to report 3 months of that. But when you look at the actual receipts, we've received about just over 40,000. And our microloan grant is on target because we knew what the number was. And we do requisition it. And this is the 4th quarter for the fiscal year for the federal money. And we're scheduled, Martha, I believe, to draw down the entire amount based on what was awarded. On the expense side, we're only over budget on our grant expense and our professional fees. The professional fees will catch up. We had the accounting and there was some timing there. Our grant expense includes the $5,000 that we provided to Columbia County Capital Resource Corporation, so that we could keep them in business. And Kat, the $2,500 grant, additional grant that we made stationary right now, but we can certainly report on it at the next meeting. Our new initiatives are down under budget 20,000. We wanted to talk with Dr. Drummer. We had made a commitment for a program, which I don't know if you're still actively pursuing with the students. We've changed the name of it a number of times. The group, the entity.
Connections.
Yeah.
Career connections.
But we did have a $15,000 budget allocation for some type of partnership with the college, so we should revisit what that is.
Kelly Radzik should be in touch with you about that.
And then we're $3,000 under budget on consulting fees. And we're $25,000 down, not having filled Jessica's position. We're still working on that. We sent out, we reposted ads. We contacted St. Rose College as an example, laying off 600 people. And again, we stepped back and we're attempting to remarket that position. We are using a law student to do some work, but that's about $1,500 a month that we wouldn't be using if we had Jessica's position filled. But there are things that we just don't have the time to do without some additional help. So, we're $48,000 net income, which is $79,000 better than budgeted. But I do think we're absorbing some additional broadband costs. And we are going to have a conversation with the county because they do have some ARPA funds left and they have to be committed and dispersed by December 31st of this year. And we do want to talk to them about where we are with the housing program, Future Forward, and with reimbursement for some broadband expense. Chris, I don't think the award of the accessory dwelling unit was that, I don't think we knew that at the last
Announced
board.
by whom, the state or Register Star? So I'll say it because that the Register Star press release went out. The county won the application for $2 million for the ADU program. Again, it's in partnership with Rucco, which we're really happy about. We're trying to bring Rucco over for a bit. We've actually learned in the kind of post-award process and talking to HCR that there were 2 municipalities that were edge cases that we can get in. So we initially had a list of 18 communities that would be participating. It's now 20. So almost every community will be able to access this program. We also learned when the budget passed that there's going to be $40 million for land banks, an extra $10 million in a separate pot of money. So another $50 million for land banks. We weren't sure if land banks would be funded at all in this budget because of the Supreme Court decision. And the Pro Housing Communities program was a part of that budget as well. This is something we've been working on municipalities with. Initially, this was pitched as an incentive program where a community had this designation, it would get priority consideration for certain grants. With the budget passing, that is now a requisite for communities to have this designation to access a pot of $650 million. As of last Tuesday. Our county has more communities that are pro-housing, likely to be pro-housing designated within the next week or two than any other county in the rest of New York State. So it's something we're continuing to work on with the community. We'll get a letter out today to those supervisors who are still considering, who haven't submitted their information yet. But that's huge. That opens up a lot of money that we don't even know what those programs are going to be yet. There are a lot of new programs in this year's budget, and I think some of them are probably going to be paid behind those pro-housing communities. One of them is actually $150 million pot of money for rental and home ownership opportunities for people making up to 130% of AMI, which is very rare. Those programs usually cap out at 80. So we're really well positioned. We've been spending the past year trying to get ready so that we don't have to stay ready. Or maybe that's the other way around. But we're really well positioned for this year's round of grants. And we're starting to do the groundwork to apply for a mobile manufactured home repair program grant that will likely come out in June. So we're in good shape on the housing front right now.
Tim Chris has done a really good job laying the groundwork with the supervisors of Affordable Housing Task Force. In particular, getting a land bank when there were only 4 slots left, in terms of, state legislative authorization. Put us in, there were people who said, well, why would you do that until you find out what land banks are gonna be able to do going forward? And I said, and Chris and I discussed it, Chris said, well, if you don't do it now, and all this money comes down the road later, there's gonna be, 15 communities looking for those 4 seats. And, we got it last fall or around the end of the year. And, our thought was if it never came to pass and there was no future for land banks because the Supreme Court ruled the county can't keep the, any amount over and above what the tax bill was that they foreclosed on, you could just dissolve it. But, and, every time we see the state put a webinar on and Columbia County has the highest number of percentage of towns participating in any other county, we again thank Chris for his hard work.
It's not a competition, but it was.
What do you mean it's not a competition? I never knew I was so competitive.
Any questions on the treasurer's report? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed?
And don't hesitate, if you haven't signed up, please sign up, and if you have any friends or people you run across that want to come, just bring them. I mean, basically told them how much we could afford to pay, and the food runs out. Family hold back.
Do we have any members of the public attending? All right. Any further questions, comments, criticisms, or complaints from our
Well,
board
just
members?
before we adjourn the meeting, I would like to point out that this is Dave Finger's last board meeting. And to thank you very much for all of your years of service and for bringing me to this organization, for all you do for the community and for everyone here. Thank you.
The roast is next Tuesday. No, David, thank you, and, for your leadership as board chair, I know from personally and on behalf of the staff, we truly have valued your leadership and your engagement, and particularly with the issues we had with broadband, your expertise, so thank you.
Thank you. And I've said this before, but it's one of the most enjoyable things I've ever done. And I think part of that is that I've made so many new friends. I consider all my friends. Thank you.
Thank you. And we know where you live.
All right, so we'll see most of you next Tuesday, 7:30 at the Falls. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Check that.
Good enough. Thank you.